Hey guys, it's Mr. Sanders. Welcome to yet another example of Enota digital learning. And today we're talking about a very important thing. We're talking about how to build empathy by using literary fiction. Now that word empathy, that's a funny word, and it seems like a big word. It means something crazy, but really it's quite simple. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person. This shouldn't be confused with sympathy, which is simply feeling sorry for someone else's bad fortune. Empathy is when you actually share the feelings of someone else, not just have sympathy for them. Researchers at the New School in New York City have found evidence that literary fiction improves a reader's capacity to understand what others are thinking and feeling, which makes sense because in fiction you get behind people's minds, you get to see what they see. So literary fiction is a term that's common in American schooling since the early 1960s, and it's applied to children's books that aspire to the level of great or timeless literature. It's meant to distinguish books that are of high quality, with multifaceted characters, emotionally rich content, and a style of writing that goes beyond genre or popular fiction. So I'm talking about books like Wonder. Popular or genre fiction tends to portray situations that are otherworldly and follow a formula to take readers on a roller coaster ride of emotions and exciting experiences without exceeding those limitations. And there's nothing wrong with that. Mr. Sanders loves The Adventures of Captain Underpants, for example, and even The Diary of the Wimpy Kid, but I would argue that The Diary of the Wimpy Kid has moved beyond popular fiction. But still, the settings and situations are often grand, the characters are unchanging and predictable, and that's one thing that's true about Diary of the Wimpy Kid. Greg tends to stay the same, he doesn't change that much, which tends to affirm the reader's expectations of other people. It stands to reason that popular fiction does not expand our capacity to empathize like literary fiction does. But literary fiction, by contrast, focuses more on the psychology of characters and their relationships. I'm talking about special books, the books that are timeless. Often those characters' minds are depicted vaguely without many details, and we're forced to fill in the gaps to understand their intentions and motivations, one researcher said. This genre prompts the readers to imagine what the characters are thinking and feeling. For example, in the book Flipped. By the way, that's a great book. If you haven't read it, we have it at the Media Center when you get back. Check it out. And you can also go to Amazon and read the first few chapters if you're bored. Great book, Flipped. So, now let's look at a popular series of books which might be described as popular or genre fiction. We're going to talk about Harry Potter by the British author J.K. Rowling. Recently, a group of scholars debated whether the series was literary fiction or merely genre fiction. Do you think the author has written a series that's genre fiction or literary fiction? And even if you haven't read the books, a lot of you guys have seen the movies, and you can just base what you think off the movies. But still, it's much better to read the book. So go ahead and think about that. What do you think? Is Harry Potter literary fiction or genre fiction? Why or why not? Well, researchers conducted 5 studies in which they divided a varying number of people and gave them different reading assignments. They had excerpts from genre or popular fiction, they had literary fiction, they had nonfiction, or they had nothing. Nothing. That's what my kids complain they have to do around here since the coronavirus came. Nothing. After they finished the excerpts, an excerpt is a short part of something, so they read short parts of these larger books. And after they finished the excerpts, the participants took a test that measured their ability to guess and understand other people's thoughts and emotions. The researchers found, to their surprise, a significant difference between the literary and genre fiction readers. When study participants read nonfiction or nothing, their results were unimpressive. When they read excerpts of genre fiction, think R.L. Stine's Goosebumps series, their test results were insignificant likewise. However, when they read literary fiction, such as The Island of the Blue Dolphins by Scott Odell, their test results improved markedly. And, by implication, so did their capacity for empathy. Now, this psychological awareness carries over into the real world, which is full of complicated people whose inner lives are usually difficult or hard to understand or fathom for us. And although literary fiction tends to be more realistic than popular fiction, the characters disrupt reader expectations, undermining prejudices and stereotypes. They support and teach us values about social behavior, such as the importance of understanding people who are different from ourselves. The results suggest that reading literary fiction is a valuable influence on helping us understand how others think and feel, and the study data could inform debates over how much fiction should be included in schools, and whether reading programs should be used in prison, and where reading literary fiction might improve inmates' social functioning and empathy. Researchers have also found that reading literary fiction has helped with other problems that people may have. So if reading literary fiction is valuable in learning empathy, and it's more valuable than reading genre fiction, how do you find it? How can you tell if a book stands above other popular fiction titles? A good place to start is checking to see if the book has won a national or local medal, such as the Newbery Award. These awards are given to books specifically because they've been judged to have high literary merit. You can also ask your librarian, Mr. Sanders, to recommend good literary fiction for you, and I'll be happy to do that. Secret Garden, awesome. Great book, good movie. So let's see some examples. Now, this is an awesome book. A lot of you guys have read this at least a few years ago. It's called Holes by Mr. Lewis Sacker. The Secret Garden by Francis Hodgson. Bud Not Buddy by Christopher Curtis. An African-American boy sets out to find his father during the Great Depression. Great book. In Holes, A Family Curse. A misunderstanding and a mystery to solve in the desert is what that story's about. The View from Saturday by E.L. Konigsberg. This tale of contest-winning teamwork has stories within the story, and the kids aren't the only ones learning about themselves. And finally, The Westing Game by Ellen Raskin. It's a letter draws a group of people to an empty mansion, and one by one, they begin to poof, disappear. Dun, dun, dun. That's a great book too, by the way. And we could have more examples. We could talk about Hatchet, which a lot of you guys know about already. We could talk about Bridge to Terabithia. Beautiful story. Beautiful, beautiful book. A Wrinkle in Time, another great story. Number the Stars, a young girl hides her Jewish friend from German troops during World War II. Where the Red Fern Grows. Oh, man. Story of the love for dogs. If you guys love dogs, that's a good one right there. Well, guys, that's the end of our short presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see you all again. Get out there and try some literary fiction, and you'll be surprised what you may learn. And you boys, you might learn a few things about girls, and girls, you can learn some things about boys by entering into the mind of characters and stories and the author of great fiction. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.